Hello, I'm Simon Whistler. You're watching the Today I Found Out YouTube channel, and in the video today we're looking at the ridiculously oversized punt gun. If you happen to think killing two birds with one stone is a bit inefficient, or you found your way into a zombie apocalypse, you might be interested in a special type of gun known as a punt gun. This is actually a gun that used to be somewhat common among commercial waterfowl hunters. So, what's so special about this gun? Well, it's capable of killing upwards of 50 to 100 birds in a single shot. Market hunters first made their appearance in what would become the United States around the time of the Pilgrims, and continued plying their trade en masse until around the beginning of the 20th century. Some earned their living by bringing as many ducks or other waterfowl to market as possible. While various methods were used for bringing down the maximum number of birds per hunting trip, the most effective was ambushing a large flock with a punt gun. First put into use in the 1800s, the first punt guns were never manufactured on a large scale, with each being custom made by a gunsmith to fit a buyer's specifications. But in general, the barrels had openings upwards of 2 inches, that's 5 centimeters in diameter, and weighed over 100 pounds, that's 45 kilograms. They generally could fire more than a pound of shot at a time, and usually measured over 10 feet, that's 3 meters long. As you might imagine from this, they were too heavy and the recoil too strong for a hunter to fire them by hand. Instead, they were usually mounted to small, often flat-bottomed boats known as punts. Hunters aimed the gun by maneuvering the boat into a position 1 or 2 dozen meters from their targets, and then they fired. That said, not all punt guns were always mounted to boats. One of the smallest examples of a punt gun is known as Herforth's cannon. Created by German gunsmith August Herforth in Wisconsin, it measures 63 inches, that's 160 centimeters long, and includes a 46-inch, that's 116 centimeter long Remington octagonal barrel with a 1-inch diameter. As for the weight, it's approximately 26 pounds or just under 12 kilograms, making it a featherweight compared to most punt guns. However, it is still much too big and has too much kick to be fired like a normal shotgun. However, its smaller size did allow the hunter to hunt from the shore if it was properly braced against something. On the other end of the spectrum, the world's largest punt gun was Irish Tom. This was reported to have taken down a little over 100 birds with a single shot, according to its original owner. However, a more usual haul per shot was in a range of about 50 birds, give or take a dozen or two. Irish Tom's barrel measures more than 14 feet long, that's 4.2 meters, and the whole gun weighs more than 300 pounds, that's 136 kilograms. More akin to a cannon than a shotgun, it could fire over 3 pounds of shot with the help of about 10 ounces of black powder. The size of Irish Tom meant its first owner was forced to build a specially reinforced punt boat, which was 24 feet long. Market hunters used punt guns from the 19th through the early 20th century. The hunters often worked in groups of 8 to 10 and fired their combined punt guns at the same time to maximize the number of waterfowl that they could hit. As an example of how effective this was, a market hunter in the eastern United States, Ray Todd, claimed he and 3 other hunters with punt guns managed to kill 419 ducks over one night in a single volley after encountering a huge flock over half a mile long and nearly as wide. After the first volley, he stated, "The birds flew off a short distance and began to feed again. We made 3 more shots that night. By morning, we had killed over 1,000 ducks. They brought $3.50 a pair in Baltimore, and it was the best night's work we had ever done." Not surprisingly, in the years after market hunters began using punt guns, the population of wild waterfowl began to decline in the United States rather dramatically. Punt guns most certainly played a role in the decline, along with the decrease in available habitat. Sportsmen who hunted for personal use of the killed waterfowl rather than for profit like the market hunters began advocating for hunting regulations and limits. In response, many states in the US outlawed the use of punt guns in the 1860s, while the Lacey Act of 1900 and the Migratory Bird Treaty Act of 1918 effectively ended their use in the country. That said, punt guns are still legal in the United Kingdom, though their barrels are restricted to a diameter less than 1.75 inches. Hunters must also have a permit from the government for the gun and the black powder, and they must adhere to strict hunting seasons. All this hasn't proved much of a problem, as there are only a few dozen currently used punt guns left in the UK today. So I really hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, please do hit that thumbs up button below. Also, if you're interested in learning more about this subject, we recommend the book American Gun, A History of the US in 10 Firearms. You can find a link to that in the description below. Also, another book about guns, not super related to this one, but is a book I read a couple of years ago, and it's truly brilliant. It's called Guns, Germs and Steel: The Fates of Human Societies, and you can also find a link to that in the description below. I'd also like to thank our patrons who help make these videos possible. They contribute a small amount every month and in return get some great perks like we've got posters, we've got a whole bunch of stuff lined up. So just go to patreon.com/TodayIFoundOut to learn more about that. And as always, thanks for watching.